Let us not fail to grasp this supreme chance to create an enduring peace under the guidance of God.
One of the primary objectives of the foreign policy of the United States is the creation of conditions in which we and other nations will be able to work out a way of life free from coercion.
And I expect to continue the effort to help shorten the war and win the peace under the direction of our great leader, Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Vote for yourselves. Vote for your farm. Vote for the standard of living that you've won under a Democratic administration.
Senator Barkley and I'll win this election and make these Republicans like it. Don't you forget that.
Harry S. Truman, America's 33rd president, served from 1945 to 1953, at one of the most critical moments in American history. He came to Washington during the Second World War as the vice president to Franklin D. Roosevelt, but only served for a few weeks. When Roosevelt died in office, Harry Truman inherited the job of leading a nation at war. During his administration, he led the Allies to victory in Europe, made the decision to drop the first atomic bombs, and presided over the reconstruction of a war-torn world. To meet these challenges, he created many far-reaching programs. But America's 33rd president didn't always make friends, preferring to run his presidency with courage, determination, and imagination. Hi, I'm Walter Hare at the Harry S. Truman Museum and Library in Independence, Missouri. Harry S. Truman was born in Lamar, Missouri on May 8, 1884. He was the oldest of the three children of John Anderson Truman and Martha Ellen Young. When Harry was born, his father nailed a mule shoe above the doorway of their home for good luck, and that good luck lasted during the long run of the 33rd president. He was particularly close to his mother, a college-educated woman who valued art, reading, and music. She taught Harry to read from the large print Bible before he was 5. Harry Truman's early years, however, were plagued with accidents, poor eyesight, and a nearly paralyzing disease. First of all, young Harry was diagnosed with having flat eyeballs. Doctors forced him to wear very thick glasses. He also had to avoid sports and roughhousing. Instead, Harry chose to read. By the time he was 14, he once admitted, he had read every book in the Independence Public Library. His first year in elementary school was good, but in January of 1894, Harry and his brother, Vivian, developed diphtheria. Harry's legs, arms, and throat became paralyzed. He had a difficult time recovering, but after nearly 6 months, he returned to school, studied hard, and even skipped a grade. Then, one day while playing, he slammed the cellar door on his foot, almost cutting off the end of his big toe. After graduating high school in 1901, Harry Truman wanted to go to the United States Military Academy at West Point, but his vision was too poor for Army standards. Instead, he attended business school in Kansas City, worked in the mailroom of the Kansas City Star newspaper, took a job as a timekeeper for a railroad construction crew, and became a bookkeeper at 2 Kansas City banks. By 1906, however, he had moved back to Grandview with his father to work on the family farm. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, Harry Truman joined the Army, became a lieutenant, and was sent to France where he commanded an artillery battery. Not long after he returned home, he married his childhood sweetheart, Elizabeth Bess Wallace, who he had met at Sunday school when they were children. In order to support his new wife, he and a friend invested their savings in a men's clothing store in Kansas City. They both worked hard there, but the business failed during the severe recession that began in 1921. Discouraged by his failure in business, Truman decided to seek a career in politics. His farming background, war record, and friendly personality won him the job of Jackson County judge in his very first election bid. Truman gained a reputation for honesty and efficiency. So, in 1934, he ran for the United States Senate on the Democratic ticket and won. During 2 terms as a U.S. Senator from Missouri, Harry Truman gained a reputation as a tireless crusader for rooting out government waste, graft, and corruption. Early in 1941, he was named chairman of the Committee to investigate the National Defense Program and was credited with speeding up war production and saving the government about $15 billion in waste. By 1944, however, many Democratic leaders believed that President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was in bad health, would not live through his 4th term in the White House. As the elections approached, Democrats had to pick a vice presidential running mate capable of being president. At their party convention, the delegates narrowly chose Harry Truman.
There being 1,176 qualified votes, of which Senator Harry Truman has received more than a majority, I do now declare him to be the nominee of the Democratic Party for Vice President and the next Vice President of the United States. It's been my privilege to be a United States Senator for the past 9.5 years, and I expect to continue the effort which I've been making in that capacity as a United States Senator to help shorten the war and win the peace under the direction of our great leader, Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Roosevelt and Truman easily defeated their Republican opponents in 1944, but Truman's job as vice president would not last long. Only 83 days. Late in the afternoon of April 12, 1945, he was summoned to the White House. President Roosevelt had died.
Harry S. Truman was sworn in as President of the United States just 4 hours after a massive cerebral hemorrhage had ended the life of Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Harry S. Truman do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office.
At 7:09 p.m., he took the oath of office as America's 33rd president.
I call upon all Americans to help me keep our nation united in defense of those ideals which have been so eloquently proclaimed by Franklin Roosevelt. I want in turn to assure my fellow Americans and all of those who love peace and liberty throughout the world that I will support and defend those ideals with all my strength and all my heart.
Life in the Truman White House began early, often as early as 5:30 a.m., when the president arose and went for a brisk walk, always accompanied by Secret Service agents and members of the media. He liked to play the piano for visitors and loved the music of Chopin and Mozart. The Trumans did not go out much, preferring to spend most evenings together in the family quarters upstairs. When Harry Truman became president, World War II was winding down. Allied armies were winning the war in Germany, and American troops were preparing to invade Japan. "13 days after he took office, the first United Nations conference met in San Francisco.
Let us not fail to grasp this supreme chance to establish a worldwide rule of reason, to create an enduring peace under the guidance of God.
On May 7th, Germany surrendered. It was Truman's 61st birthday. To celebrate, he proclaimed May 8th as Victory in Europe Day. But the war with Japan still raged on. In July, the president received word that American scientists had successfully tested a powerful atomic bomb for the first time. He knew dropping such a powerful bomb would kill many innocent people, but it could help end the war more quickly, perhaps saving many more lives.
We shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth.
He called it one of the most difficult decisions he had to make as president, and ordered American flyers to drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan. The first bomb fell on the city of Hiroshima on August 6th.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped 1 bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe.
3 days later, a second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Japan quickly agreed to end the war and formally surrendered on September 2nd, 1945.
I have received this afternoon a message from the Japanese government. I deem this reply a full acceptance of the unconditional surrender of Japan.
The Second World War was over, but President Truman now had the difficult task of rebuilding a war-torn world. At home, he used his power to help convert the American economy from wartime production to peacetime. He developed a plan to provide national health insurance to all Americans. He introduced a permanent Fair Employment Practices Commission to protect the rights of minority workers, and he gave government aid for scientific research and for public power projects. Abroad, Truman realized that after World War II, a Cold War was developing, as communist governments gained control over one nation after another in Eastern Europe. On March 12, 1947, he announced his Truman Doctrine, which guaranteed free American aid to nations resisting communist propaganda or sabotage. He also developed the Marshall Plan to rebuild war-torn Europe. Named after his Secretary of State, George C. Marshall, the ambitious plan called for the nations of Western Europe to join together for economic recovery, assisted by money from the United States.
But there's no doubt whatever in my mind that if we decide to do this thing, we can do it successfully. And there's also no doubt in my mind that the whole world hangs in the balance.
This is no more than a frank recognition that totalitarian regimes imposed upon free peoples by direct or indirect aggression undermine the foundations of international peace and hence the security of the United States.
13 votes for President Truman.
I therefore declare him the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. I accept the nomination.
Vote for yourselves. Vote for your farm. Vote for the standard of living that you've won under a Democratic administration.
Senator Barkley and I'll win this election and make these Republicans like it. Don't you forget that.
Get out there on election day and vote for your future.
During his second term in office, Truman signed the North Atlantic Treaty, forming NATO. The treaty assured that if one nation there was attacked, the others would come to its defense.
One of the primary objectives of the foreign policy of the United States is the creation of conditions in which we and other nations will be able to work out a way of life free from coercion.
Then, across the globe, communist forces from North Korea invaded South Korea on June 25, 1950. In order to keep peace in Asia, Truman decided to intervene. To keep South Korea independent, he ordered American ground forces into the country. He later said that sending U.S. troops to South Korea at the risk of starting another world war was another very difficult decision. At home, he initiated many reform programs that included civil rights legislation, federal aid to education, a new farm bill to raise farm income and lower consumer prices, a federal housing program, and increases in the Social Security program. And most controversial of all, President Truman set up a federal board to investigate the loyalty of government employees and prosecute leaders of the American Communist Party.
He is not a sound security risk today.
But in spite of his many successes, on March 29, 1952, Harry S. Truman announced that he would not seek re-election.
I do not feel that it is my duty to spend another 4 years in the White House.
He left office on January 20th, 1953, the day General Dwight D. Eisenhower became the nation's 34th president.
The Constitution of the United States. So help you God. So help me God.
Truman retired to his home in Independence, Missouri, where for the next 19 years he continued his active interest in politics. He published 2 volumes of his memoirs, and in 1957 opened the Harry S. Truman Library in Independence. Late in 1972, Truman became ill with severe lung congestion and entered a hospital. He died on December 26 and was buried in the Truman Library courtyard. During his presidency, Harry Truman's strong personality and fighting spirit accomplished much. He presided over the end of World War II, the beginning of the Cold War, the formation of the United Nations, and most of the Korean War. But he is perhaps best remembered as a straightforward man of the people who coined many famous phrases, including, "The buck stops here."